You guys all okay? Set to go here? Let me just do a couple things, kind of bring you up to date, and then we'll go to questions and I hope answers. So anyway, so Fran, I started the day today at the school. I spoke to the government class along with Congressman Johnson and my wife Fran. Fran is still at the school. She's in a culinary arts class, and I hope to get back there and join her in time to eat whatever they're making. So I think she's making some Irish soda bread and some other things with the kids. So happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. Let me give you kind of some data. Chief and I were just talking. We have been concerned about the speed or lack of speed in getting the soil, the dirt out of here, and that has picked up. Just to give you some numbers, 1,620 tons were removed this past week. That compares to 910 tons the week before. So we still have a long way to go, as you can see by the pile and the piles, but we're getting the speed up, and that's something that's very important, I know, to the community. About a week ago, I kind of lost my patience, and we put out a release complaining about this and trying to nudge U.S. EPA and to nudge the railroad to get this job moving forward. So we're seeing some more progress, but never fast enough, right, Chief?
Yes, sir.
So anyway, progress is being made. Current pile, what's piled up, we think is about 26,700 tons, 26,700 tons. The process that they are following, for anyone who's ever had any something taken off your face, it's kind of the process they're following there. And by that I mean they take it down to where they think there would be nothing there, no problem. They take it down to the clay, but then they test that. And if that comes back with anything in it, then they just keep going until they get it clear. And that's the process that they are following. On a happy note, this week some of the hellbenders have been found, and this is good news. Our people at the Ohio Department of Natural Resources are very happy about that. They were actually found and looked thriving in the North Fork of Little Beaver Creek. So as you know, that's like 3 removed from where it was the worst, but we're happy to see them there. They are a signal about the quality of the water. They do not flourish, they don't live if the quality of the water is not good. Let me move on. Municipal drinking water tests continue to come back good. We continue to see air testing around the community. Up to now, 616 indoor sites have been tested. The 23 stations around the village continue to show good results. As far as the liquid that's been removed, we're at 6.7 million gallons at this point that's been removed. As you recall, I'd asked Norfolk Southern to do more than they've done in regard to training for our volunteer firemen and women around the state of Ohio. That first training, they responded and said yes. We put that release, I think, out about a week ago. Some of that first training is getting ready to occur March 21. And they will, again, they're still signing people up for that. If anyone wants to sign up, they can still sign up. That training will continue on. There'll be other dates. And later on, they will move to other location around the state. They'll open up a second location. Let me talk for a moment about soil sampling. This is something that, as I've talked to people in East Palestine, they've said to me, is it safe for my kids to go out and play? I'm afraid to have them go out into the yard. I'm afraid to, when the time to mow grass, I'll be afraid to mow grass. I need some answers. And so this process now, as a direct result of that question, those concerns, that process is now started. They've gridded off the community, the area, and are taking samples from different grids. This is started on private land. It's also in some private land that's also agriculture. So it's in people's yards, but it's also in some agricultural areas as well. I'm going to look in a moment at the map inside here. I think we can probably get one of you in at a time if you want to take a look at the map. But that map shows where this testing is now starting to take place, or where the samples are being taken. We don't have any results back yet, but we're well into that process. We're about halfway in, we think, in regard to the sampling. And by doing a representative sampling, that's going to give us, we think, a pretty good idea of what is going on out there. But we're still obviously open if people really want to have their yard tested. That's something that certainly can be done. But we're doing this grid sampling to really kind of get a feel for exactly where we are. So those are just some of the things. Fran and I plan on spending a good part of the day here. We're going to close the day by seeing the Lion King Jr., which is being put on by the high school and the junior high kids, and we look forward to seeing that. So happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. It was brought up earlier, a couple of weeks ago, when I was doing a story. It was just on the mobile medical units and where that stands, and I'd been talking to the Ohio Health Department.
Yes.
But there were some people's concerns just that they weren't able to get access, whether their child had a disability or, let's say, they were elderly, they couldn't get to the health clinics. Do you know any more information?
Yeah, well, we are working on that. We're going to have an announcement next week. Our goal has been to try to establish something that is permanent in the community to complement the health suppliers that are already here. Those are the providers who are already here. We want to complement that. So we're working with the different people who are already here. Mercy, for example, working with East Liverpool Hospital. And we'll have actually a formal announcement of that next week. I plan on being back on Wednesday, and we'll have an announcement certainly then or before then.
Dr. Arnett said it wasn't going quick enough.
Well, nothing ever goes quick enough. Look, I mean, people are looking at these piles, and look, what we had is a situation, as you know, where some states said no, we're not going to take it, and the EPA put out a statement today, which I'm very pleased that they put out, and they called everybody's attention to what the law is, and this is interstate commerce, and I'm not going to speak for the EPA, but I think their statement today should clarify any problem and should deal with any kind of problem that we have had of states that say, no, we're not going to take this particular load, or we're not going to take anything coming out of East Palestine. And I think that, that's just, look, that's wrong. It's kind of crazy because what we're sending from here is no worse than stuff they're taking every other day. In fact, they're taking a lot worse stuff than we're sending from here. So, a little PR, a little politics got involved, but I'm very happy about the statement that was made today by the U.S. EPA. So I don't know if that answers your question. But
with that in mind, is there a specific timeline that you either desire or have heard for this eventual cleanup of the soil?
No, I can't say that. I don't. I mean, I just looked at it. As you know, they're still on the first track. They've made huge progress on the first track, but there's more work to do on the first track before they even get to that second track. So there's a lot of work to be done. And again, we're going to continue to do everything we can to push this thing through and to get the railroad to get the job done. But I can't predict the time. Who else?
Governor, obviously earlier this week the lawsuit filed by the Attorney General. What else does the state plan on doing to ensure that Southern is held accountable to ensure that the city is?
Well, one of the things that I told the CEO the other day when I was talking to him on the phone was that one of my concerns was that if the land values do in fact go down, when we get to the county auditor of Columbiana County does the next appraisal, that the value will be down, and therefore the taxes will be down, which means that less money will be going to the school. And so this is a big concern. And I expressed to him my concern about that and said, look, we expect Norfolk Southern to be accountable for that and to fill that, whatever that gap is, so that the school can continue on and does not suffer because of this train wreck. Again, Norfolk Southern has an obligation to put this community back to where it was. We didn't ask for this train wreck. It's their train, it's their tracks, it's their train wreck. So this is something that we would expect them to cover as well. Now, as I've said, I believe clearly where we end up here, and the sooner that we can get there, the better. But is to have a fund. That fund would be established. And Norfolk Southern would put a chunk of money in there, and there would be guidelines about how that money is paid out over the future years. The big concern that's been expressed to me many times by people, even people who do not have any symptoms, or maybe they don't have anybody in their family who has symptoms, but they say, look, I'm worried about my son, my daughter, myself in 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. That is a huge concern that people have in East Palestine. So again, this fund has to be there to take care of that well into the future. And I think, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think that's where we need to end up, and I think that's where we're going to end up. Anybody else? Oh, we have a map. Okay, let's see it.
Right outside.
Okay, can you bring up? You guys come on over and.
Yep.
Okay, so this. Who wants to talk about the map? Okay, you're gonna need. Why don't you get right up here? I'll hold it. We got it. There we go.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Durno with EPA, and this is the first phase of the soil sampling that we're going to be taking on over the next couple weeks. We got started last Thursday, and the whole purpose of this sampling event is to ensure that we can collect samples in the areas most impacted by potential particle deposition in the community. And as you can see, we have a 1 mile radius around the initial train accident site, and then another mile to the southeast, which extends well into Pennsylvania. We will collect up to 270 to 300 samples, depending on how much soot or ash we find. We don't anticipate to find much because the particles that came off this fire were very small. So if we don't see a lot of particles, then the number of samples will be reduced. To date, we've collected over 100 samples, so we're making great progress in that. And as the governor noted, we haven't gotten any final results back, so we don't have any messages to send yet. But
what's the difference between red and yellow?
Oh yeah, so
and blue.
So the several colors in here. The blue dots represent the areas most impacted by the derailment. The yellow areas are areas where we're doing site inspections. And again, if we don't see any ash or soot, those are locations where we probably will not collect samples unless we see a compelling reason to do so. And then the red samples are red, purple, and other colors are areas where we'll be collecting samples on different types of land. We're looking at residential land, agricultural land, recreational land, and commercial land to do this sampling.
Okay, questions on this? Okay, so once we start getting results back, we'll share those results with you. And
sorry, when did you say that's going to start again?
The sampling started last Thursday.
Okay.
So it's been 8 days since we started this effort.
And then when will it go to?
We think the primary job will last about another week to 2 weeks, depending on weather. We did have one down day due to snow, but other than that, we've been going pretty good, and just depending on site conditions. So.
All right. Anything else? All right. I think we have B-roll coming out. That if your stations want to pick it up, B-roll from the high school, would be available. So, all right. Sure. Where are we going?